The death of Nikola Tesla was a very terrible and sad tragedy. In the meantime, a girl named Anna experienced events that make you afraid to hear. Be with me until the end of this story to experience real fear. Darkness in the sky. On a dark and rainy night, everything in the sky looked strange. The clouds danced in an unusual way and spectacular lightnings shone in the sky. A strong wind was blowing fast and it made a dry sound. People on the streets were trying to save themselves with whatever protection they had. But in the midst of all this chaos, a loud and scary sound suddenly appeared in the streets. All the people turned towards that voice and were horrified to see what was displayed in the mirror of the news channel. Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest inventors in history, was engulfed in flames and smoke. Everyone was in shock and this scary image stayed in their minds forever. This was only the beginning of a dark and terrifying story that lay ahead of them. After that terrible incident, the city fell into darkness. Apparently, the death of Nikola Tesla not only destroyed the power grids, but also the spirit of this world, gave the city a terrible eternal spirit. Mysterious shadows appeared in every corner. They would suddenly and uncredited ly emerge from the shadow of a building or tree and wander the streets wearing unimaginable forms. These shadows had no sound and no movement, but their presence shook a person's whole being. The people of the city were locked in their houses because of the terrible fear that these shadows created in them. At night, they looked out the windows at the street and gasped at the sight of shadows crying in the darkness. But one night, when everyone was sleeping in their houses, one of the shadows penetrated into one of the houses. This house was a small and old house with no neighbors around it. The owner of this house was a middle-aged woman named Anna. Anna lived alone, and since she saw the death of Nikola Tesla, she could not get the fear of losing her life out of her mind. But this night, all of Anna's fears and terrors came true. While Anna was sleeping, she heard a whispering sound. Anna opened her eyes and looked around to make sure someone was home. He did not see anyone. But the whispering continued. The humming grew louder with each step Anna took toward the sound. Suddenly, Anna's eyes fell on a dark shadow in the corner of the room. Siba slowly came closer and looked at it carefully. The shadow was moving and seemed to have a human form, but he couldn't see the exact details. Anna's heart was pounding in her chest and her whole body trembled. The shadow slowly moved closer to Anna, seeming to be surrounded by another shadow protruding from behind Anna. Anna was terrified and could not speak or even move. The shadow slowly considered Anna's surroundings, still humming and preparing their safety encirclement for the next step. Suddenly, one of the shadows moved closer to Anna and extended a shadowy hand towards her face. Anna desperately tried to raise her hand to stop the shadow from touching her, but to no avail. Shadow's hand gently touched Anna's face, and at that moment, Anna experienced a strange and terrible feeling. All of Anna's emotions and spirit suddenly disappeared. He could no longer experience feelings like fear, dread, or even love. Anna's face became lifeless and her eyes looked like two soulless black holes. The shadows watched with delight as another human joined their terrifying eternal spirit. Anna moved slowly and without any movement and stood next to the shadows. Now he was one of them, a dark and soulless shadow that roamed the streets and spread fear to others. At night in this terrible city, an epidemic fire was flowing through the streets. A fire that did not retaliate and turned everything into ashes. Terrible red flames were burning in the dark space of the night, and a huge red cloud was forming in the sky. This fire, which had unimaginable power, was an evil deal that the shadows had made a connection with. Now, alone, the city was engulfed in the heat and terror of the raging fire. People were very scared and could not escape from this situation. There was no safe place and no way to fight this terrible fire. Seeing the red flames attacking the houses, everyone sought protection and rescue. But the fire would burn everyone with its power and no one would escape from it. One night, one of the shadows appeared in the grounds of a large house located in the heart of the city. This house was an old and dark house that was considered as the center and rulership of the shadows. By summoning this house, the shadows had strengthened their power and strength and sent the all-consuming fire to the city. Inside the house, it looked dark, cold and terrible. The rooms were full of secrets and every corner was filled with dark shadows. In the central room, a large bed stood in the middle on which an invisible person seemed to be sitting. Shadows gathered around the bed, waiting for the sleeper to take a new break from their harsh duties. That night, a firestorm descended on the city. The flames were thrown with terrible force and threw its flames at the doors and windows. Following the attack of the epidemic fire, the city had become a place of destruction and fear. The streets were full of ashes and debris, and everywhere you looked, you could only see smoke and fire. Buildings that had once been full of life and enthusiasm had now receded into dark and terrifying ruins. But in this dark city, there was a maiden named Anna. Anna was a young and brave girl who was a light of hope and courage in the middle of the epidemic fire. He woke up from sleeping outside his house and stared at the dark moonlit sky. Anna decided to fight to save the city and its people. Anna was looking for a way to deal with the epidemic fire. Because of what he learned from his father, he went to the old and dark house of shadows. Entering this haunted house, Anna encountered a dark force that spread around her. With great care, he defeated the shadows one by one using the magic sword he inherited from his father. After defeating the shadows, Anna entered the central chamber. There was a large bed with a powerful shadow sitting on it. Bravely, Anna moved towards the powerful shadow and fought him with her magic sword. The fight between Anna and the powerful shadow was accompanied by the sharp sound of swords. Anna's powerful blows disrupt Shadow's attempt to maintain his strength. But Anna, with courage and vigilance, gradually made the shadow fall. When the mighty shadow was finally defeated, the all-consuming fire lost its power and the red flames dwindled. The fires were extinguished and the city fell into peace. Taking a deep breath, Anna felt satisfied. He was able to stop the destruction and save people's lives alone with his courage and strong will. After this terrible struggle, Anna returned to the streets and saw people picking up the rubble and rebuilding the city. The sounds of destruction were replaced by the sounds of construction, hope and effort. Everyone was increasingly inspired by Anna's drive and energy and sought to rebuild their city. As the hero of the city, Anna walked slowly among the people. He gave everyone a warm smile and gave them motivation and hope. Now the city was full of life and happiness again. The epidemic fire that had at once sent terror and fear to the city had become a reminder of a brave and victorious struggle. And still Anna, with happiness and hope for the future, continued on her way. With his courage and determination, he was going to stand up against any challenge that might come his way and show others that no fear is capable of researching wishes and dreams.